Welcome to episode number 41 of Life Without Cravings. Today I want to talk about self-sabotage. That's just something that gets in the way of us reaching our goals, and for anyone who wants to eat differently than they do and they don't seem to be able to actually change how they're eating, this might be what's actually going on. No one will ever say that they don't want to be happy and they don't want to feel good about themselves, the way that they behave, about life. No one is ever going to say that. So why is it that we seem to always almost deliberately do the exact opposite of what we say that we want to do, and then we just ruin our chances of getting what we're saying that we want? When you're doing something that works, let's say that you are using my tools for managing your cravings, and all of a sudden, even though it's working for you, you're going back to doing exactly what you did before, something that you know is not going to work for you and is not going to give you the results that you want. And then you will be frustrated that you can't seem to be able to get a handle on your cravings and how you behave around food, even though it's all your own doing. You are self-sabotaging your chance at being in control of your food and actually accomplishing something that you want. Part of the problem is that a lot of us, we don't know how to feel happy and free, and we're simply scared of feeling this way because we don't really know what it means, like what it would mean for us if we did. I have clients that are scared of feeling in control because there is too much pressure. If they feel in control of their diet, that means that they also have to be in control of other areas of their lives. And then that means that other people are going to expect more of them. So if they can't live up to those expectations, they're going to see that as a failure. So rather than going to this place of success and making more out of their lives, they just revert back and they go back to dealing with what they're dealing with now. So rather than dealing with things that may or may not happen in the future or even thinking about it, they go back and they feel miserable because they feel miserable in their own little safety bubble. And that might sound very counterintuitive, but when you really think about it, it's not. So even though if you feel miserable, being out of control with your diet, it still feels better than being in control of your diet with the pressure of having to do things that you currently don't think that you're going to be able to live up to, and then failing at doing that, and the shame and all of that comes with that. That feels a lot worse. So it's a lot easier to just go back to what you know, even if it doesn't feel good. So even when people are telling me that they want to be in control of what goes into their mouths, and they want that freedom from the food, and they just want to be able to eat like normal people, I know that that's not always the case. But we don't usually dig that deep down, so we don't know what's going on underneath. And since they have never done this before, it's all new territory. And throughout their lives, they have only ever been exposed to the fight and the wanting of things that they can't get. So this is what we know. We know what it feels like to want things that we can't have and to fight ourselves to try and get there. So the fight is all that we know, and it's all that we have come to expect. It feels familiar to us, and therefore it kind of gives us a sense of security. It feels like home, if you like, even though home a lot of the time feels like shit. It's still home, because freedom and happiness, it can feel so alienating to us that we often choose to go back to what we know rather than putting ourselves at risk. Now you might be wondering, okay, what's actually at risk here? Because rationally there is nothing, and that's true. There is no real risk here. But what your brain perceives as a big risk is that when you feel happy and when you are in control of your diet, you are opening yourself up to loss. Imagine that we all had like good moments or periods in our lives when everything felt like walking on clouds or something was really good. And we can cherish those memories sometimes, but sometimes when we're thinking back to them, that can make us feel very sad because we no longer have it and we wanted it. It was so nice to be there. So we feel that loss of something that was really good. So now if we translate that into what is happening here, is that when we fear the loss of the success that we're going to put some work into getting to, we think that somehow it's going to feel worse to have achieved that success and then losing it. And then with that might come the shame of losing it and the pressure of trying to maintain it once we actually get there. But we somehow assume that we won't be able to stay there and we're going to lose this. And that's going to make our lives feel so much worse than they're doing now. So it's not worth going through that. So self-sabotage is just another safety mechanism that is in place to just protect you from yourself and or from the perceived future harm that you want to put yourself into. And a lot of the time, the way that we frame our lives comes from childhood trauma, which can be anything from just having not had enough attention to outright abuse. Kids are not able to understand that maybe they didn't get all the attention that they wanted because their parents were working so hard to put food on the table, and they just didn't have the energy to pay you that much attention in the evenings, for example. And imagine a child experiencing this with a child's brain. What they're going to make that mean is that they are not worth paying attention to. So they're going to see the life through this lens that they are not worth paying attention through. Or if they were abused, they will make it mean that they somehow deserved it. And now that's how they perceive life. And someone who deserves to be abused definitely doesn't deserve to feel good. They deserve to live in misery. And that's how we want to keep ourselves, because we don't deserve that happiness and that freedom. And this might not seem rational because it isn't. And that's why it's called trauma. It's something that has been incorporated into your nervous system. It's just a reaction, how you react automatically to everything. So this is going to be on autoplay in the background at all times, and it will color every single decision that you make in your life unless you're able to overcome that. So whenever you start having a little bit of success, your brain is going to be really confused, because there is now a conflict of beliefs. On one hand, you don't really believe that you deserve this success. You don't believe that you deserve to be free from the cravings and having the freedom to choose and feeling really happy about it. And on the other hand, you see that this is actually a possibility. This is happening right now because you've done it for a period of time. It's something that is working and it feels really good. So now you have this conflict. And it's when you have this conflict and it just grows stronger and stronger, that's when you start to fail again. And you will have all these silly excuses for why it's happening. And I say silly excuses because when you have a look at them, a thorough look at them, you're going to notice that, yeah, they are just excuses. Perhaps you just had an extra pissy day at work and you really didn't want to fight those cravings when you came home in the evening and well, you had enough at work, so let's just eat, forget about it, and start again tomorrow. Or you're going out with friends and you don't really want to explain why you're not having cake when everyone else is having cake, so it's just easier to eat. You don't want to have that because somehow you're talking yourself into that they're going to think that you're strange, or they're going to try to talk you into it and you can't be bothered to deal with it. Or my favorite, you feel so good doing the work that you think that you don't have to do it anymore, and somehow you expect that you're still going to have the same good results that you have got up until now. Or at least that is what you're telling yourself, but you know rationally that this isn't true. This is just another excuse that I see quite a lot of the time. So the question is, how the fuck are we getting out of this? And the answer isn't completely straightforward because each and every one of us would see the world through a different lens. But one thing that we all have in common is that we need to embrace our uncomfortable emotions. We need to be willing to feel uncomfortable while we are going back to practicing what we know works. Because most of the time it's not that what you're doing isn't working, the problem is that you are not doing it. And this is where I, as a coach, can really help my clients, because it's very rarely about the tools and how to do it. Most of the time, they know how to do it. It's about breaking through these streaks of self-sabotage and the core beliefs that they have about themselves and their capabilities. And knowing that success can be the trigger. It's not that something is wrong with you or your capabilities, it's just that success, when you have success, it will ramp up the amount of negative thoughts and the intensity of these thoughts to get you to self-sabotage. So by knowing this and expecting it to happen, we can interrupt this process and take action to make it either short-lived or to not appear at all. And I also want to encourage you to think about it as if this was happening to someone else. This is a really good practice or a really good exercise that you can do. So imagine that if someone you love has made all this progress, they are in control of their cravings. They might not even have cravings on a daily basis anymore because they have done the work. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, you didn't see this coming, they just have one of those days and they tell you that, oh, well, none of this really matters. Today I'm just going to eat and see what happens. I can't be bothered to deal with this. What would you tell them? What would you think about what they are doing in this moment when they say those words? When they speak those words to you? What would you think about that? You for sure would not tell them that they deserve to fail. I know that for a fact, because no one would speak to anyone else like that, unless you're a narcissist. You would most likely just tell them to think about the progress that they made, how far they've come, how awesome they felt last week, and how great they will feel later today when they're still on track and they just worked themselves through this day and they stayed on track even though they felt like they really didn't want to do it. And how proud you are of them actually doing this work. That's probably a lot more likely to come out of your mouth if you're speaking to someone else. So bring that out and speak to yourself that way when you are about to self-sabotage, when you notice that those thoughts are coming up, when you just don't want to do it anymore. Look at it as if it was another person. You can also join my community. When you sign up for my program, Quitting for the Last Time, you will get lifetime support from me. This is new. The lifetime support is new. I have changed the playground a little bit because I've noticed that most of my clients, they want to stay on, they want to have more support and keep working on their lives. And I'm going live every week in there, coaching everyone in my community. So even if you want to go slow, if you need to work on your self-concept and your self-sabotage for months, I'm going to be there helping you every week. So even if your brain is telling you that you won't be able to do it, I'm going to be there to show you that that is just bullshit. And we will work it through at whatever pace you need to go until you're where you want to be and you're comfortable being there. Because getting to where you want to be is just the first step. The second step is to be comfortable with being there and getting your brain on board. So if you want to do that, you can find the link in the description. You can sign up on that link, or if you want, sign up for a free consult with me and we can talk about other options as well if group format isn't really your thing. Until next week, do what you can to treat yourself like the queen or king that you are. I'll see you then.